Hi everyone, welcome back to Grow Your Groceries in Raised Beds and Containers. If you're looking for a super easy way to get growing veggies this month in April, this video is for you. I'm going to show you how to plant 3 vegetables from seed directly in your raised beds and containers so you can get your veggies growing quick and have lots to eat on your table. The vegetables we're going to plant today are warm weather loving vegetables. So as long as you're past your last frost date of the season, and your nighttime temperatures are in the 50s, your daytime temperatures average 65 degrees or more, you can get these veggies planted. They grow well in containers or raised beds. The first vegetable we're going to plant are beans. We're going to plant these in the little shorty 3-foot raised bed. Super easy way to grow, but you can see here my broccoli and some of my cool weather vegetables need to come out. They've gone to seed and we're going to get our beans planted. So first item on the agenda is to clear the raised bed. We had some nice crops of broccoli over the winter time, but now in April, the weather's getting just a little bit warm for them. So we're gonna snip it and make room for my bean seeds. I cut them at the base, and these broccoli plants can be thrown in a compost pile. Make some nice black gold for the garden. And I'm just actually gonna leave the roots in the soil to decompose, but you can definitely pull them out if you want to. And see, I've got a lot of nasturtiums growing in here too. I'm actually going to try and leave some of those in to spill over the side because that'll look really pretty with the beans. One of the advantages to growing vegetables in raised beds or containers is that the soil warms up quicker, so you can get your vegetables planted earlier in the spring. And you can definitely reuse your soil as long as you refresh it and add some nutrients. So first off, what I'm going to do here in Little Shorty is to kind of mix up the soil just a little bit, just kind of loosen it up here. Little Shorty is a great growing container for beans and all kinds of different vegetables. And you can grab this over at CaliKimGardenandHome.com. It's 3 foot long, has 3 different sections in it. It's about 18 inches deep or so. And use the code SUNSHINE to get 25% off containers, seeds, and my garden books. So I'm just loosening up the soil. Really simple to do a soil refresh, loosen it up first. Then I'm going to add some compost just to kind of top it off. Compost has so many good nutrients important for growing vegetables. Made this compost right here in our own backyard. You can check out our recent compost video for how to do it in a small space. Smells nice and fresh and earthy. Just add a few inches to the top. And then I'm going to add in some Vermistera worm castings. And these are great for good, slow, steady growth of your veggies. Add really important nutrients to your soil and really help your plants be healthy. Then I'm going to add in some organic granular fertilizer. All these nutrients feed your vegetables over the long haul. They're called time released, and they'll feed your veggies here for about 2 to 3 months. So now I'm just going to kind of mix this in with my hands. Now this soil is looking just a little bit dry, so I'm going to water it and mix it in so my seeds have the moisture they need to get off to a really good start. For containers or a small raised bed like this one, it is important that you have a nice, loose, well-drained potting mix. I've got a really good DIY potting mix recipe that can save you a ton of money on soil, or you can grab some bagged organic potting mix from the garden center. Beans are one of those garden classic vegetables. If you're a new gardener, you definitely want to get some beans planted. They go from seed to harvest in about 6 to 8 weeks, super easy to grow. You're going to absolutely love them. Now the seeds we're planting today come from my container garden seed collection and my raised bed garden seed collection. All the veggies in those are well suited for containers and raised beds. The first one we're going to plant are the Royal Burgundy bush beans. Super beautiful bean. They're a purple bean and they grow fast. They're going to really make your garden bed pop with color. You're going to absolutely love them. So planting beans is so easy. You can see the seeds are rather large, and kind of the general rule of thumb is you plant the seed about twice as deep as it is wide. This is about 1/4 inch wide. We're going to plant the seeds about 1/2 inch deep, and I like to plant them right next to a drip emitter so they get plenty of water. Super easy, just poke them into the soil, cover them up, and I'm going to plant my bean seeds about every 3 to 4 inches together. This way you ensure that you have plenty of beans growing. You want to plant your beans in full sun, which means about 8 hours a day. Now, beans really do work best if you direct sow them right in your garden beds. However, you can start indoors from seed if it's too cold where you live right now, but just keep in mind they don't like to have their roots disturbed, so you may want to consider planting them in a container that will dissolve right in the ground like these cow pots to minimize the root disturbance. So we've got our Royal Burgundy bush beans planted. The next variety we're going to plant are Slenderette beans. These are from my container garden seed collection. These are an absolutely beautiful yellow bean, and it's always fun to plant different colors of beans in your garden, so your garden just absolutely pops with color. The seeds are white, but the beans themselves are yellow. So as long as your temperatures are nice and warm, 65 degrees or warmer, your beans are going to germinate in probably about 5 to 7 days. And as long as the soil and the temperatures stay warm, you're going to be eating your own fresh, tasty beans in about 8 weeks. So these really go from seed to table very quickly, super tasty, and we're going to add some beautiful garden goodness to your dinner plate very soon. Your beans are going to grow to about 2 to 3 feet tall, and they do like a little bit of support because once they get loaded down with beans, they get kind of heavy and tend to flop over. So I like to use a little bit of a light support. This is a bamboo kind of arched trellis, and I just got this at my local garden center. So I'm going to put this in my Smart Pots little shorty about every 6 to 8 inches, so they have something to kind of lean against as they get heavy and loaded down with beans. Now my soil is already pre-moistened, but I am just going to lightly water the seeds in just to get them settled in the soil. And you do want to keep your soil nice and moist. Don't let it dry out, especially while they're germinating, so you have a really good germination rate. And what I always like to do is lightly mulch the top of my soil with shredded leaves just to keep it from drying out. And if you live in an area where it's still just a little bit chilly, this will help the soil stay warmer and help your beans germinate faster. You can also use shredded straw if you don't have any leaves. Just something to cover the top of the soil will really, really help. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because we'll be sharing more tips about caring and harvesting for your beans as they grow. The second veggie to direct seed now in April are cucumbers. Super easy to directly plant in containers or garden beds right from seed. Now I'm going to plant mine today in one of the CaliKim 10-gallon Smart Pots, but you can plant cucumbers in a container as small as 5 gallons. The 10-gallon is bigger, allows a little bit more space for more cucumbers, so it's perfect container for growing cucumbers. Now cucumbers definitely need a support. So I've got a bamboo teepee type trellis here. I have all the directions to build this in my book on raised bed gardening, but it's basically just 3 teepee poles. This one is probably about 10 feet, it's super tall, and it's wound at the top with some twine, so it's really long lasting and super strong for the cucumbers. I've already refreshed my soil with some compost, but I am going to add a couple handfuls of Vermistera worm castings, and I'm going to add a sprinkle of organic fertilizer. Love cucumbers, they're such a nice, refreshing, tasty summer treat, and super easy to grow. You want to plant your cucumbers in a spot that gets full sun. They're a warm weather veggie. They love the summer sunshine. One little tip is plant them in a spot that gets morning sun, because that way if there's any dew or moisture on the plants, it'll dry them off and help prevent diseases. So today we're going to plant 2 different varieties, Space Master and Boston Pickling, 2 of my very favorites, both in the raised bed kitchen garden seed collection and the container garden seed collection. So we're just going to follow the same procedure that we did with the beans, where we're going to poke the seeds into the soil, not too deep though. See, these are smaller seeds, so we're only going to put them into the soil about 1/4 inch deep, but you can plant cucumbers a little bit closer together, because then the plants kind of intertwine as they climb up the trellis, and it helps make the vines stronger. So I'm actually going to plant 3 different seeds at the base of each trellis here. So just poke them in about 1/4 inch or so, cover them up, and that's really all there is to it. It's so easy to get cucumbers planted. And again, these are the Boston Pickling, which are really nice. You can pickle them, but they also are a really nice slicing cucumber as well. And one of the keys to planting in containers is to plant smaller varieties that are a little bit more compact, but still super, super productive. And that describes the Space Master cucumber perfectly. It's from my container garden seed collection. It's a bit more of a compact plant, so if you're growing in a smaller container, this is definitely the variety for you. delicious, beautiful slicing cucumbers. You're gonna absolutely love growing Space Masters. And I'm also gonna put a couple of seeds in the middle here. They can kind of spread out over towards the trellis. And then we can always thin out the plants as they grow if things get just a little bit too crowded. And it's important to install your trellis before you plant. That way you're not disturbing the plants as they grow. And the trellis keeps the plants up off the ground to keep pests and diseases at bay. We'll just lightly water our seeds in, cover with some mulch, and your cucumbers are not going to need any additional fertilizer until they start germinating and growing and have a couple sets of true leaves. And we'll come back and give you some more tips on that when our cucumbers start to grow. The third vegetable to direct seed in your containers or raised beds in April is squash. Squash is a real power producer, loves the warm temperatures, and it does like a bit of a larger container. So the CaliKim 10-gallon Smart Pots is a perfect container for it. So again, you can start from seed indoors, but planting directly in your garden beds makes it super, super simple, and you can get them going very quickly. So in our 10-gallon here, I'm going to plant 2 white scallop squash varieties. Very well suited to container growing, a bit of a smaller variety, so it's perfect here in the 10-gallon. This is called a scalloped or a patty pan squash. I've got 2 different colors, a white and a green, so you've got a beautiful variety of squash spilling over your containers. Patty pan is kind of a small squash with a scalloped edge. It's so pretty, one of my favorite varieties, super tender. And we love grilling them up in the summertime. They're so tasty, or putting them on garden fresh pizza. So the seeds here you can see are quite large. I'm gonna poke them down into the soil about 1/2 inch. I'm gonna plant them about every 6 inches apart or so. And then as the seedlings germinate and grow, I will thin them out so we only have 2 plants for this container, because you definitely don't want to get too overcrowded with your squash. They have large roots and are larger plants. And if you crowd them out too much, they won't be quite as productive. I'm going to plant 3 of the green tint scallop squash around the front side here. And the seeds again are in my raised bed garden and container garden seed collection. A super easy way to grow. All the seeds in there are arranged by season or by type of vegetable, so it really takes all the guesswork out of it. You want to plant your container in full sun, so 8 to 10 hours or more a day. The more the merrier, the more squash you're going to have. And by the way, I did already refresh my container soil here before I planted my seeds, and I just realized I forgot to put plant tags in my other containers. So here we got our plant tag for a scallop squash. This is actually from my garden subscription box. It's included in the box. So got the name of the squash on the back, the date we planted it, so I don't forget what's growing here. We're going to give it a quick little sprinkle with water. And your squash seeds will germinate in about a week or so, as long as it's nice and warm out. Spreading our light layer of mulch on top to keep all the moisture in the soil. And squash do need fertilizing a little bit more often. They're what's called heavy feeders. Because they produce so much, they need really consistent feeding throughout the season to keep on producing. So once they germinate, I'm going to be fertilizing them about every 7 to 10 days throughout the growing season. And we'll definitely come back and share some more tips on that as our squash grow. It couldn't be easier to get these 3 power producers, beans, cucumbers, and squash, direct seeded right in your containers or garden beds this April. Now what I want you to do is go out and get your seeds planted. You'll be so glad. You'll have tons of fresh veggies in your garden. Head to CaliKimGardeningHome.com for 25% off my seed collections, Smart Pots, and my garden kits. And you gotta grab one of my Grow Your Groceries with CaliKim garden subscription boxes. People are having a ton of fun with it. And this month's theme is Pizza Garden. You can get $3 off with the code GROWGROCERIES. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.